What's going on, everybody? I'm Coach Co. Welcome to Sports Cards Pro, the data tracking tool that is going to give you the upper hand when it comes to buying and selling your sports cards. Let's jump onto the Sports Cards Pro app so we can check out the hottest sports cards of the week. All right, team, we are going to go into the tools feature. Now, before we get this party started, for just $6 a month, you get access to this and many other features on the Sports Cards Pro website, such as the data tracking, the sales volume data tracking. That being said, just for subscribing, just for watching, just for participating in this video and on this channel, you get access to this absolutely for free. So let's jump into it. All right, first up on the list, we've got basketball. Now, the last few weeks, we've had Wemby firmly entrenched at the #1 spot, but Michael Jordan has taken that spot back. And as you can see, you got Jordan, you've got Kobe, Jordan. So the GOATs are always very high on this list. Doesn't matter if it's off season, in season, basketball, the GOATs tend to reign supreme. We're going to go into Luka's 2018 Panini Prism. This card has gone on an absolute ride. The high for this card, ungraded, was $670. Luka just dropped 73 points on the weekend. An amazing feat, especially after it was about a week ago where Joel Embiid dropped 70. So I don't know what's in the water in the NBA these days, but it's been happening. So 670 is all-time high. That was back in December of 2020. These cards have come down quite a bit, and they are now at about $80, $81.15. However, they were as low as $68.69. So they're up a little bit. PSA 10 copies, $211.35. 9.5s, $153.80. 9s are $94.99. Now, what we can do on this website as well is go into the Pop Reports feature. So this is one of my favorite parts of the Sports Cards Pro website. When it comes to buying and selling, you kind of want to know how many of a certain card exist and in what grade. I tend to grade my own sports cards, so I send them in for grading. It's a great way to increase the value of them. But I also want to know what the average raw copies grade at. And so if you look here at the Luka Prism, the average grade is a 10. So probably not great in terms of buying as an investment, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. However, buy what you like. We're just talking on this channel in terms of using data and conveying that into, whether or not me personally would do something. So, because the gem rates on these are pretty high, it's not exactly a scarce card. There's 19,799 copies of PSA 10s. 15,647 copies of the 9s. And then when you get into the 8s, it drops down to 1,100, 197 7s. And so this tells me that the vast majority of them grade 9s and 10s. Next up on our list, we're going to go back into our categories, and we are going to dive into baseball. So baseball off season, not a lot of things are going to move the needle here. That's why Ken Griffey is relatively high on this list. Don Mattingly, again, you've got GOATs. And you're going to notice, again, a trend. A lot of people are buying GOATs versus ultra-modern players. So we're going to go into Griffey's 89 tops traded. 46 of them have sold in the last week. This card got as high as $18.96 back in August of 2021. And it's actually increased a little bit since December. And it increased even more since, I would say, back in July. It's about $8.75 now. PSA 10 copies are $115.83 or 86 cents rather. 9.5s, $77.50. 9s are $25.88. So this is a card that I probably wouldn't suggest you grade. Again, if we go into the pop reports, looks like the vast majority of the that get graded are 9s. Between 9s, so 47,000 of these. They come back about $77.50. If you know what you're doing, could be a great way to increase value, right? It's a $9 card. You grade it under bulk submission prices. Maybe that's $20. So you end up with $29 invested in this card. If you manage to sell it for 77, I mean, that's 3 extra money, but you really need to know what you're looking for with these cards. And that's one of the reasons why I suggest if you're going to grade a card, I would highly recommend looking up other cards that have graded 8s and 9s and 10s and matching that up with your card and seeing, okay, centering, surface, edges, corners, how does mine look? How does that one look? Next up, we got football. Anthony Richardson's Prism card is doing pretty well. You see the Jordan Love, lots of love there. 124 copies of Anthony Richardson's Prism rookie card have sold. This card just came out, so you're not going to have a large list of prices. So not a lot of price fluctuation over the course of the last little bit because it just came out. However, there have been PSA 10s and $66.34 is the price of them. 9s, $23.01. 8s, $12.57. This is a common theme that base cards, if they do not gem, it's usually not worth the price to grade. And this chart suggests quite the same. So just remember that if you're looking to grade your base cards, be very, very, very picky. As I just previously mentioned, look up what 10s look like. I would also be like hypercritical because you don't want to be spending money on 8s and 9s when there's really not a good ROI. Again, if you're grading just for the sake of grading, then who cares? You don't have to listen to a word I just said. Hockey's up next. We are going to go into, let's go into Stuart Skinner's price action. This card got as high as $20.08 back in December of 2022. The hills and valleys continue for this card. It got as low as $9 and is up to about $13. The Edmonton Oilers are on absolute tear lately. I think they've won like 15 or 16 in a row. PSA 10 copies of this card are about $59. I can tell you personally that I've graded probably 4 or 5 gems. So this is a card that if you bought raw is a relatively easy gem rate. And again, this pop report, this is one of the reasons why I like it, would suggest the same thing, right? So 1,163 gems versus only 301 nines means that this card is probably a pretty easy gem. But if you know what you're doing, you buy this card at $13 raw, knowing that the 10s are relatively easy and you know what you're looking for those 10s. You grade that card for, let's say, $20, and you can basically 2x your money. So knowing things like this are a great way to add value to some of the cards that you have and your show experiences, maybe your trading experiences, etc. All right, people. Next up, we've got racing, and we got a whole new top 5. We're going to go into Yuki Tsunoda 2023. Tops now, F1, 4 of them have sold. $6.04. This card, the all-time high is $6.04, at least since we've been tracking back in July. $41.30 for a PSA 10. 9 5s, $29.28. 9s are $15.18. Again, same trend. If you grade a 9, it just doesn't seem to add up. Next up on this list, we have soccer. And Messi, just on an absolute tear. We also got a resurgence in Jadon Sancho here. Actually, let's go into it. Jadon Sancho's resurgence. This card, I remember this card being very hot at $19.49. It has come down considerably. And it's now sitting at about $1.25. But the reason why the volume is up is because he recently featured for Borussia Dortmund after a spell at Man U that just did not go well. So, you know, high volume doesn't necessarily mean that the price action is positive, as indicated by this chart here. So that's another important thing to note. Just because a card is selling, or a lot of them are selling, does not necessarily mean that it's up. All right. Just means that more people are buying. Very, very, very important note. I'm glad I mentioned that, actually. Next up on our list, we've got UFC, and we've got Raquel Pennington. Let's go into Dreykus. 22 Panini Prism UFC. 3 of them have sold. This guy just won in Toronto. He beat Sean O'Malley. I'm from Toronto, if you guys didn't know that. The all-time high for this card was $10.50 back in September of 2022. Card went down considerably. And again, price action is pretty stable. But the fact that he won meant that there was more sales of this card, and that's why he sits on this list. $42.14 for a PSA 10, nines, $7. Same trend from before. If you grade a base card and it comes back less than a 10, you are probably losing money. So just please, people, save yourself some money unless and even if you're doing it for sentimental purposes. I mean, you could just buy the card graded for $7. Final category, wrestling. Charlie Caruso's 2021 Topps Chrome WWE. And this card started off at about $1.25 back in July of 2022. Been on a nice little run since then, $2.30. Come down a little bit to $1.60. PSA 10 copies, $34.63. Same trend though, $12.13 on the 9, $6.35 on the 8. Team, it's the trends. They're here weekly trends where if you grade a card that is a base card, if it doesn't come back at 10, you're probably losing money. So please, please, please do your research before you grade. Also, in many cases, just buy the grade if you really want. That being said, I hope you guys are all having so much fun in the sports card market. Please, if you haven't already, you need to like, subscribe, comment, share this video with a friend. Let us know what your favorite sports card that you saw this week was. Maybe you're going through your collection. I want you guys to have a wonderful rest of your day. Coach Co and Sports Cards Pro are out of here. Peace.